Hey everybody, it was Art Kilman here. So, a new survey here, Washington Examiner posted. You're not going to find this really in the mainstream media. Um, on this channel, I cover culture, demographics, etc., geopolitics, how it culturally, politically impacts the country, the Western world. Uh, and in a survey, over a quarter of Americans, or people in America, I should say that it is not okay to be white. It started over a sign that was posted by a council member in Portland, Maine. A lot of international groups are trying to government, our own government, everybody's trying to push what they call refugees, folks from non-Western nations, into Maine because their great sin is that it's a white state. Diversity, again, diversity only means less white. Only Western, ethnically Western nations founded by and for Western people. Anything that's predominantly white is deemed white supremacy by our own government, by media, anything. So, just to prove a point, he put up signs that it's okay to be white. There was tons of vitriolic backlash from the progressives there, the media, you name it, from tons of major anti-white organizations, from the ADL, SPLC, which have direct ties to the media, the government. The FBI has been caught recently going after traditional Catholics because they're predominantly white and hold traditional Christian views. They've been dozens of whistleblowers from inside the FBI have said that the FBI is disproportionately going after and targeting white Americans, trying to call it white supremacy. Named us their number one target, by the way. I mean, white people. So yeah, yeah, we've got that going against us. But anyway, over a quarter of people in America, so it's not even okay to be white. In other words, what does that mean? Well, we can't have an ethnic designation. We can't speak up for ourselves on that basis. In other words, being of European descent. Notice even in the article they don't capitalize it. They will capitalize black because that denotes an actual ethnicity. It's not just a skin tone, because that's the thing. Well, in this article, they don't capitalize black. The official Associated Press say that they will capitalize black because it denotes people of African descent in America, a specific ethnic group with a common history and ancestry and culture. But they won't do it for white, even though we have a common ethnically European ancestry. And yes, there is ethnic homogeneity, cultural homogeneity going way back amongst the ethnically European peoples. I cover all that, whole different topic. But anyway, over half of non-white Americans, or I should say about half of non-white Americans, thinks it is not okay to be born white. In other words, that's genocidal language. Over half, or about half. Think about how serious that is. Only half of kids 18 and under are even white in what was founded as a white Western nation. You know, so that means a quarter of the population, of the younger population, is not going to be okay with them existing. Much less that if they're not okay with you existing, imagine the percentage that's not okay with you having any rights or, well, anything for that matter. And the current rhetoric and the current official policies, which means that we're not allowed to exist or have any group preference or anything like that. Much less, again, speaking up for our interests as a group, the same every other group does. And by the way, Republicans don't do anything to deal with this. They have Blexit, they have Legit, they have many things catering to specific groups of people. Again, except us. When it comes to us, they fall right into a different chapter of intersectionalism, which is, I don't see color, and they don't speak up for us as a people. Or they roll out Tulsi Gabbard or Candace Owens. They're not okay with us speaking up for ourselves as a group. And they will allow us to be demonized, and anybody who does to have their life destroyed, bank account shut down. And it's getting so serious in Britain. And by the way, the WEF stated in this last gathering in Davos that they're going to pass what they call hate speech laws to, and multiple members of the Black Congressional Caucus actually tried to push laws to actually literally make it illegal for white people to speak up for themselves on an ethnic basis. I'm not joking. You can look that up. The WEF said that they want to make quote unquote hate speech laws. For in other words, it specifically directed at anybody who is white and male and straight, but extending to basically white people as well. Any traditional Western Christian values, because in the UK, even just fairly recent history, 3,300 Brits have been rounded up and thrown in jail for offensive hate speech online. I'm not kidding. And it's not like this severe, radical, no threats, nothing like that. No, just for being offensive. Only one case I know of where one Brit, out of the one person in Britain, I should say, of the 3,300 rounded up and thrown in jail, were arrested for, violations, which they don't have free speech there. It was a non-white priest who prayed outside an abortion facility because it's illegal for him to pray in public. I'm not kidding. Not that different in America. Uh, White people were arrested in Moscow, Idaho, for wearing masks. And when I say what did it have to do with them being white, for not wearing masks and gathering out in open public, by the way, and singing hymns. So for gathering in public to sing hymns in open air, they were arrested in Moscow, Idaho. Why I mention that? Because BLM people did the exact same thing, shouting, screaming, didn't wear masks in Moscow, Idaho, right before that, so summer 2020, and they were just left alone by the local PD. But they rounded up the Christians and arrested them. So all of this is the current status quo where we're at, and that number, it's not shrinking. That don't agree that we have any ethnic claim to the founding of this nation. I mean, we literally did. Our statues are being torn down. Our history is being destroyed. Our kids are getting race shamed in school. All the traditional values being destructively pushed on them, especially in rural and suburban schools. They're especially pushing these agendas. Non-Western groups like Muslims, they have been allowed to push back against the woke, more perverse policies in places like Michigan, and they haven't actually had much backlash. They've been successful in getting it out of their schools without backlash. But not so much for us. It's being pushed harder on our kids in their schools. This is what we've got to deal with. I mean, this is what we've got to speak against. Well, how do you deal with this then? Don't stop talking about it. Be vocal about it. When you have a loud vocal minority, you repeat it enough times. I mean, this is a proven thing in politics. The loud vocal minority speaking up on behalf of their people. For one thing, it's about time. We're way, way past the point where we have any sense of cohesion as a nation. We're many nations in one, right? We don't have any sense of identity as a nation, at least. All we really have is our people, the founding people, the Western people of the Western nation that we are. So you really owe it to your descendants, your ancestors, or people to speak up on their behalf. I mean, especially when this is the kind of thing that we're facing. This is Ozark Hillman. I'll have a good one.